3, 2, 1, 0. Booster ignition. And liftoff of Discovery.
50 years ago this week, Wapakoneta native Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon.
The surface is fine and powdery.
That one moment in history would go on to inspire so many here in the Miami Valley.
That to me was what really cinched the deal of me continuing with science.
From simply wanting to be a military pilot, maybe being an astronaut someday.
Tonight, the moon landing that led to a generations-long Ohio space legacy. Neil Armstrong's historic achievement not only propelled the U.S. to win the space race, the Miami Valley astronauts' towering accomplishment also led countless men and women to dedicate their lives to do something special. NewsCenter 7's Jim Oddie shows us how it began when Armstrong stepped onto the surface of the moon.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It was late Sunday night, July 20th, 1969. Those fuzzy gray and white images were watched live by 500 million people around the world.
When you see a sunrise or a sunset in space, it is a glorious thing.
Mark Brown of Beaver Creek, a former shuttle astronaut, remembers that night and all that went into the Apollo 11 mission.
All engine running.
He had just graduated from high school and watched it on TV with his family.
It was totally awe-inspiring, and a lot of people that weren't alive at that time don't remember what a big deal the space program was.
Armstrong and his fellow Apollo 11 astronauts became national heroes, and the space program was on the rise. As a student, Brown even heard Armstrong speak at Purdue University.
My perspective and my goals shifted a little bit from simply wanting to be a military pilot to maybe being an astronaut someday. Maybe that is an achievable goal.
And Brown did it, making 2 shuttle flights, never forgetting the accomplishments of the astronauts who came before him, especially Apollo 11.
The surface is fine and powdery.
Sherry Adams of Oakwood remembers it well, too. She's the former astronomy director here at the Boonshoff Museum of Discovery in Dayton, a favorite with kids. Seeing the Apollo mission helped solidify Sherry's interest in a potential career.
That to me was what really cinched the deal of me continuing with science.
Sherry spent decades educating kids about astronomy and space, and now is thinking back to that one special moment in 1969.
Not only did it connect people of the country, but it connected people of the world.
In the years that followed the moonwalk, Armstrong left NASA and tried to stay out of the spotlight. His achievement and those of his fellow astronauts are now honored at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Riverside. Armstrong was such a private person. He didn't like publicity, didn't take part at a lot of big public events, but he did come here to the museum for something very important. And thousands of people here had the chance to see him in person. It was for the unveiling of the Ohio Quarter in 2002, a rare opportunity for people to see not just Armstrong, but also former astronaut John Glenn.
Ohioans have traveled far and wide and accomplished wondrous things.
It feels really weird because you think this guy stepped on the moon. It's like, wow.
After decades of service, both in NASA and private life, Armstrong died in 2012. At the Air Force Museum, with the help of the Apollo 15 capsule, they're telling the story of how 3 men went to the moon.
So the Apollo spacecraft is a great example of how 1960s technology had progressed to a point where, yep, we can do this.
Another Miami Valley connection also made it possible. The second man to walk on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, as a graduate of the Air Force Institute of Technology at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
And to have one of our own, if you will, as part of the team, it's a point of pride for us for sure.
More than 30 astronauts received their graduate education at AFIT, and who knows, maybe someone here today may be part of a future mission in space. NASA has plans to go back to the moon and eventually onto Mars.
If this nation sets its sights on getting something done and is willing to organize and commit to it, it can achieve a lot of great things.
Back at the Air Force Museum, Mark Brown is showing me the shuttle landing simulator.
Perfect.
He guided me to a good landing with a lot of encouragement. And what does he think of NASA's future? He supports the return to the moon and a mission to Mars, although he says the U.S. may not go it alone.
If you're going to do that, it needs to be an international effort where you share facilities, you share costs, you share people, and you make it a group effort.
And perhaps someday, with Neil Armstrong in mind, an astronaut will take their own historic first step onto the surface of another planet. Jim Oddie, News Center 7.
Our coverage of the moon landing anniversary continues on our webpage at WHIO.com. You can see photos and videos from 1969, plus more on Neil Armstrong's many connections to the Miami Valley, both before and after the moon landing. We have also posted several archive videos on our WHIO streaming app. Those include the first steps on the moon and President Nixon's call to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. You can download the app on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.